Donovan! Who's this Donovan? Let's put him right on the sidewalk. Look at him. He's a good guy, actually.
Be here for you.
Season of the Witch, Catch the Wind, Sunshine Superman, the Hurdy-Gurdy Man, the lovable and lighthearted Mellow Yellow, Atlantis.
I made 9 albums in the 70s, but never really felt the connection again, the impulse. And my songs work much better in response to a movement, I realized.
On a grey May afternoon in 1965, a tousle-haired young Scot with a harmonica rack and a denim cap appeared on British television, strumming an acoustic guitar. To some, he looked like a Bob Dylan impersonator. To others, he seemed like a voice from an older world, a purveyor of ballads and whispers long since buried beneath the electric growl of the Stones and the nascent roar of The Who.
Listen now to what could well be the voice of our own conscience, the voice of Donovan.
His name was Donovan Phillips Leitch, though for most of his life, just Donovan would do, and for a fleeting but luminous stretch of the 1960s, he became the bard of British psychedelia, the flower child troubadour who drifted effortlessly between pop success and cosmic exploration.
You're gonna miss somebody when I'm gone.
It all happened very fast, Donovan once said, reflecting on those years of sudden fame. One moment I was sleeping on beaches with my guitar, and the next I was being called Britain's answer to Dylan. I didn't see it that way. I wasn't answering anyone. Born in Maryhill, Glasgow, Donovan grew up amid the soot-streaked remains of post-war Scotland. A childhood bout with polio left him with a limp that would remain with him throughout his life. When he was 10, the family moved to the seaside town of Hatfield in Hertfordshire, and it was there that Donovan began to explore music in earnest. Folk music, at once ancient and insurgent, became his chosen path. The ballads of Woody Guthrie, Pete Seeger, and Bert Jansch entered his bloodstream, and so too did the poetry of Yeats and Blake, both of whom would become spiritual companions throughout his career. My father was a poet, and poetry was just part of life in our house, Donovan recalled. That rhythm, that lyrical way of speaking, it stayed with me. Even when I started writing pop songs, I always thought of them as poems first. It was Catch the Wind, his 1965 debut single, that first caught the ear of the British public.
Well, try and catch the wind. When sundown pales the sky.
With its gentle melody and breathy delivery, the song reached number 4 in the UK and made waves in America too. A second hit, Colours, soon followed, cementing his place as a folk darling in the mould of Dylan.
In the morning, when we rise, that's the time. Yes, that's the time.
Though where Dylan had a sneer, Donovan offered a smile. But even as critics rushed to cast him as Britain's Dylan, Donovan was quietly slipping free of that mould. It never fit, he later said. Dylan was a political prophet. I was more interested in the mystical and the magical. That mystical current began to swell visibly in 1966, when Sunshine Superman hit American airwaves.
When you've made your mind up forever to be mine.
Gone was the lone folk singer. In his place was a psychedelic shaman singing of crystal spectacles, mad hats, and celestial maidens. The song, produced by Mickey Most and driven by a hypnotic bass line from John Paul Jones, was a revelation.
You can just sit there while thinking on your velvet throne.
It topped the Billboard chart in the US and announced Donovan's transformation. There was a moment, he told Mojo, when I realized I didn't have to follow anyone. I could write about whatever I wanted: sunshine, fairy tales, mythology, ecology, sexuality, India. The Beatles were beginning to go that way too. We were all pushing into new spaces. Indeed, it is impossible to discuss Donovan without invoking his connection to the Beatles. He was not just a fellow traveller of the psychedelic age, he was a friend, a confidant, even a mentor. In early 1968, he travelled to Rishikesh, India, alongside John, Paul, George and Ringo to study transcendental meditation with Maharishi Mahesh Yogi. There, in between meditative silence and vegetarian meals, he gave informal guitar lessons to Lennon and Harrison, introducing them to the clawhammer fingerpicking style that would appear on songs like Dear Prudence and Julia.
Yeah, we were sitting around playing guitar, and one day he said, "How do you do that?" And I said, "What?" The guitar was never out of my hands.
Yeah.
It is now, but then it was never. And he said, "That picking." So I said, "It'll take time."
Right.
He said, "Donovan, I've got time." So he was a good student, and he learned a guitar style and some chord shapes that I knew that he wasn't used to, and then the songs started coming.
Donovan was a catalyst, George Harrison later said. He was already ahead of us in many ways when it came to acoustic playing. India marked a spiritual high water mark, not just for Donovan, but for an entire generation of artists searching for meaning beyond the material. While many would return disillusioned, Donovan remained committed to the inner path. Meditation, for him, was not a fad, but a lifelong practice. "I wasn't just dropping acid and chasing colours," he said. "I was looking for something deeper, what the Hindus call Sat Chit Ananda, being consciousness, bliss." Donovan's own catalogue from this period is astonishing in its diversity and eccentricity. Mellow Yellow was an ode to sensuality and surrealism, a slow-burning groove that featured whispered backing vocals from Paul McCartney and became a massive hit on both sides of the Atlantic.
They call me Mellow Yellow. They call me Mellow Yellow.
Hurdy Gurdy Man, heavier and more foreboding, hinted at the coming of hard rock and even proto-metal. Jimmy Page played on the track, and its lyrics referenced spiritual teachers and sonic vibrations, as if channeling some esoteric scripture through the fuzz pedal.
Hurdy, gurdy, hurdy, gurdy, hurdy, gurdy, gurdy, this side.
Where his contemporaries often pivoted toward politics, Donovan plunged into dreamscapes and inner visions. Atlantis, a sprawling spoken-word ballad set to a gentle rhythm, became a late 60s classic despite, or perhaps because of, its unabashed strangeness.
Hail Atlantis, way down below the ocean.
Other tracks such as Season of the Witch showcased his eerie prescience, offering glimpses of paranoia and shadow amid the flowers.
Must be the season of the witch. Must be the season of the witch, yeah.
"I always felt that my role was to reintroduce wonder," he explained, "to remind people of childhood, of myth, of something ancient and beautiful." But not everyone was receptive. To some critics, Donovan's flower power imagery and gentle delivery made him an object of ridicule. Lester Bangs, ever the iconoclast, dismissed him as a minstrel with a head full of candy floss. And yet there was always more to Donovan than his image suggested. Behind the pastoral whimsy lay a serious musicality. His melodies were sophisticated, his chords often borrowed from jazz and Indian ragas. He was an early adopter of open tunings, alternate scales, and Eastern instrumentation. Long before it became fashionable, Donovan sang about ecology, meditation, and non-violence. "The song There Is a Mountain is about the Zen koan," he said. How many other pop hits can say that?
First there is a mountain, then there is no mountain, then there is.
His influence is broader than is often acknowledged. Mark Bolan of T-Rex credited Donovan with giving him permission to be magical. Nick Drake reportedly studied Donovan's picking technique. Even Robert Smith of The Cure has cited him as a lyrical inspiration. "Donovan gave us permission to be soft, to be strange, to be beautiful without irony," said Smith. "That's no small thing." By the early 1970s, the cultural winds had shifted. The age of Aquarius gave way to the age of disillusionment, and Donovan, ever the idealist, seemed out of step with the new mood. Albums such as Open Road and Essence to Essence explored more introspective themes but failed to chart. Audiences moved on, and the industry, increasingly dominated by louder, grittier voices, left little room for subtlety.
Things would go on. New musical styles would be developed, and there was actual retro. It went back to dance music, whereas all the music in the 60s was so experimental, and then suddenly disco.
Yet Donovan did not flinch. He moved to Ireland, then to California, and continued to write and record. He scored soundtracks, released children's albums, and collaborated with artists as varied as Jeff Beck and Alice Cooper, but mostly he lived. "I was never comfortable with being a pop star," he said, "so when the fame quietened down, I didn't panic. I just kept writing, kept exploring." A stabilizing force in Donovan's life was his marriage to Linda Lawrence, whom he wed in 1970. Linda, once the muse of Brian Jones, brought with her a son, Julian, whom Donovan adopted. Together they had more children, including actress Ione Skye and musician Donovan Leitch Jr.
I met again my teenage muse Linda, which was an extraordinary re-meeting, who I wrote all my songs for. It sounds like a story, and it is. A fairy story.
"I found a deeper kind of love with Linda," he said. "It wasn't just romantic, it was spiritual. We were walking the same path." Home life was woven into his music. He recorded lullabies, wrote poetry for his children, and spoke openly about parenting as a form of creative work. Even his later public appearances, at festivals, meditation gatherings, and peace concerts, had a familial warmth to them, as if he were inviting the world into his sitting room for a story. Donovan's most significant revival came in 1996 with the release of Sutras, produced by Rick Rubin. The album was bare, meditative, stripped of all artifice, a return to the folk purity that first made him famous.
After 3 gold albums, 13 hit singles, Donovan just kind of dropped off the scene for a little bit, but now the former Prince of Flower Power is back. His new album is called Sutras, and no doubt it's going to draw fans, from both past and present.
I'd give it all to be with you.
Critics, long dismissive, suddenly saw him anew. Rolling Stone described the record as a quiet triumph, and The Guardian praised its mystical directness. "I said to Rick, let's make an album that sounds like a whisper," Donovan recalled, and he said, "Perfect." The whisper carried. Younger artists began name-checking him. His songs appeared in films, on playlists, in DJ sets. The irony-heavy 2000s suddenly found space for sincerity, and Donovan's blend of melody and mystery began to seem not quaint, but vital. In 2012, Donovan was inducted into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame by John Mellencamp, who hailed him as a poet, a seer, a visionary.
I run right into Donovan Leitch, right? And I look up at him, here I am, and I go, "Man, you've been such an influence on me."
2 years later, he was welcomed into the Songwriters Hall of Fame. Both honors came with standing ovations, and for once, Donovan allowed himself a smile of recognition. "I've never been interested in monuments," he said. "If the songs survive, they survive. If someone finds them and they mean something to them, that's enough." And the songs do survive. Sunshine Superman is still a radio staple. Season of the Witch has been covered by everyone from Al Kooper to Lana Del Rey. Hurdy Gurdy Man appears in films and TV series as a signifier of mysticism and danger. Where Your Love Like Heaven has become an anthem for those seeking grace in a graceless age. At 78, Donovan continues to tour selectively, often with a guitar and nothing more. He still writes, still meditates, still believes in the power of a single voice and a simple melody. He offers something rare in popular music, not just nostalgia, but continuity. A reminder that the inner journey is not a trend, but a lifelong unfolding. "I never chased trends," he said, "and I never apologized for being romantic. If I believed in beauty, I said so." And in saying so, clearly, fearlessly, and with a touch of the cosmic, he carved out a place in the story of modern music that is utterly his own. For those who care to listen, Donovan is still singing, and the tune still carries.
Oh, yeah.